Hey everyone, your host Nick here, and you're listening to the official podcast of 4PlayerNetwork.com. First, I want to remind you that we are a fully independent podcast, quite literally just a group of friends who have met once a week since 2008 to talk about video games. If you like our show, the best thing you can do for us is be active in our community. I recommend Discord. You can subscribe to our show, leave us a review on your preferred podcast service, or, if you're so inclined, bless us with your patronage on Patreon or Twitch. If you're new, all you need to know is this. We record these shows live every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Central on Twitch, and the audio version launches on all podcast services on Friday morning. Patreon and Twitch supporters will even get the show a day early on Thursdays. But if you want to know more about any of this, about what we do, or find all the important links you need, simply visit us at 4playernetwork.com. And that's it. This is the only ad you'll ever hear on this show. So, with that said, thank you for listening. Let's get started. We're about to do one. We're doing one right now. Hey everyone, welcome to 4Player Podcast. This is episode 816. It's November 26, 2024. Welcome to a Thanksgiving special. I guess we'll just call it that. In lieu of our usual shenanigans, we're going to do the top three games we are the most thankful for tonight. Each of our individual top threes. But before we get to that, I just want to, I should introduce everybody. My name is Nick Henderson. I'm joined tonight by Brad Simons.
Yes, what's up?
Christopher Guthridge.
Hey, Nick. How's it going?
Hey, buddy. And Christopher Davis.
Good evening. Hope y'all are doing well.
Who's drinking tea. So, yeah, before... Brad, to your point, I was already planning on doing this. We are going to do a top three tonight. God damn it, Crispy. The man in the picture that is behind you on the green screen, I thought was actually standing behind you for a second, and it made me just...
That's weird to think that. That is a crazy thing.
No. I hadn't, my eyes hadn't adjusted yet, and it caught me off guard.
I'm going to draw a tunnel on a wall and make you run into it.
It kind of look like the sort of characters that Crispy surrounds himself with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah.
Sorry.
This is what I want to be in another 15 years.
It's good to want things.
This is a teacher? I mean, what is this guy from?
Oh no.
I think you should leave. Sketch from I think you should leave.
Okay.
This guy, like, he's like, I don't know, he hears some rock song on the radio, and it's like about how there's no rules and you do whatever you want. So like when he hears it, he just goes crazy and just starts like smashing things because he's having an existential crisis that like rules might not be real.
Does that explain the state of the classroom that he's standing in?
Yeah, he walks into a random classroom and trashes it, and then I'm not gonna explain it. I already did, but I'm not going to.
It's fun. Already funny. Crispy.
It's an amazing sketch. I love it.
All right.
Yeah, it's called Shirt Brothers. You gotta help me, Shirt Brother.
Yeah, some people in chat know what's up. All right. Anyways, before we get to the games that we're thankful for, I do want to open with Chris Davis. Last week we had our first conversation about Life is Strange, Double Exposure, and you had only played 3 episodes, and we were talking a lot about how it could still go very wrong or very right. And you have since finished the game.
You said this might be your game of the year prior to the last couple episodes.
And everybody knows historically, if you look at like the reviews and stuff, the last 2 episodes are where people who didn't like it say it falls apart. So I just want to know, how did you like the last 2 episodes of Double Exposure?
So I think this is still a game of the year list contender. I will agree.
It's a 10 instead of a 1 though?
I wouldn't say that. I would say that it does not reach the heights of episodes 2 and 3. It has some problems with pacing and what they want to do with the story. And if you were not a fan of how Life is Strange 1 ended, with it's
Donnie Darko,
it's crazy stuff, then you're not going to be a fan of this. But in my opinion, what they set up narratively for like the implications of the storm and the characters, like I really like it. I'm
so you're
mostly happy.
So you're mostly happy.
Yeah. I have choice issues with it, but I enjoyed it.
Was the ending of the original Life is Strange divisive? Or was it like everybody like really?
Well, you have a choice.
Yeah,
it's like, do you want to go full Donnie Darko, or do you want to have the storm that's caused by you using your powers to destroy Arcadia Bay, but at least Chloe's in your car, so everything's all good? Well, it's a complicated topic for another podcast, maybe.
Okay.
Well,
okay.
Specifically with episode 5, it's more about like the metaphysical, like the psychosis stuff Max is going through. You get a similar experience in this. So if you didn't like that part, and I know a lot of people didn't, then you will also have issues with episode.
You know, I was really hoping that Chris Davis was playing this on Steam, but perusing, I'm gonna guess you're not, because I was looking through your Steam library and I didn't see it.
It was available for physical purchase, baby. So I got it.
God. Yeah. We have come full circle. It is now me, Nick, going to bat for buying games digitally, just so
He's always been the worst. Chris Davis has always been the worst.
I have.
But he's the one who waits to buy physical on things he doesn't even care about yet. He doesn't even know if he likes it, but he's waiting for physical to own a show or something.
Oh, that's me still. That's still me in a lot of cases.
I mean, not often, Brad.
There's a show that everyone says is good. He doesn't even know if he's going to like it, but he's waiting for the physical version. So
that's okay. Okay, that's different. That's different. I feel that way about shows that I've already watched. I know I want to own them physically. Yeah, that's.
What else have I done?
Yeah.
Here? Andor.
Okay.
What else we got?
Yeah, it's strange.
I mean, Andor's a fine. You dodged a bullet on that one, but.
Yeah, I mean, to be clear to those listening at home, we're specifically alluding to the fact that Chris Davis is waiting to watch these popular things until he can buy it physically, not even knowing for sure if he likes them himself.
He doesn't enjoy television and movies unless he can take part in the like commercial aspect of it, you know?
I mean, and there are some things I genuinely feel that way with.
The consumer aspect of it.
No, it's more like the fact that I want to experience the best possible version of what's being presented. And you can't, and the best way to get it is on a physical disc these days still.
No.
Streaming still cuts out. It still has artifacting. It's got quality issues.
Sounds like you've got shitty internet. Okay, sorry. Let's move on, guys. We are here to talk about. It's Thanksgiving in a couple days here in the States. We're gonna do our. We're gonna go around the room and talk about the 3 games that we are the most thankful for. And this not necessarily intending this to be like our favorite games of all time. I think a lot of us kind of came at it from the perspective of these are the games that had an impact on us in some way, shape, or form, and we're thankful for that impact. And I guess we'll start there. So,
speaking of things I'm thankful for, we all know I'm thankful for Psych Odyssey. So my question for Chris Davis is, now that you've purchased a physical copy of Psych Odyssey, like everyone else was just making like, I'm not going to watch no fucking 25-hour YouTube bullshit.
Is that still in plastic wrap?
Your excuse might have been, well, I'm waiting for the physical version of Psych Odyssey. Now that you have it, are you actually going to watch it with no artifacting or whatever?
I intend to. I intend to watch it.
The most hilarious example of this is that Chris Davis literally waited to buy a physical copy of a YouTube video.
Which is fine, except most people, like every other single person who bought it, and I'm pretty confident in this. Every single other person who bought a physical copy of Psych Odyssey has already seen it. He might be the only one to buy a physical copy who has not seen it.
I'm sure there are dozens of people like me. Dozens, sir.
Dozens sounds crazy.
DVD resellers.
Yeah. It's not.
Damn. There we go. All right.
I mean, I need to find the time. If you would look behind me, you'll notice I'm currently in box
shut
hell.
The fuck up, dude. Like, I'm tired of hearing about this shit, dude. This is not the reason. You can't blame fucking not watching Psych Odyssey or everything else in your life on the fact that you're fucking moving to a new house. Stop it. There's going to be a point where you can no longer use that excuse anymore.
Yes.
We've all moved.
Yeah, he's getting his mileage out of it.
This time next week, we expect you to have watched the entirety of Psych Odyssey.
Yes, exactly.
That's a literal impossibility. No.
You can literally watch it while you're packing.
Dude, I watched that 15-hour Bionicle lore lecture.
Wait, I'm sorry, what?
There's like a 15-hour lecture on Bionicle lore on YouTube by a guy named
That just
Ben
means.
Saint.
Were you big into Bionicles?
No. I mean, I had some, but
do you see?
like when I started watching it, I was like, I remember liking these as a kid, but I don't remember why. And I think it was literally just a friend had one and was like, they've got like 6 different ones, and if you bought one and I had one, we could like play with them together. And I was like, yeah, that's cool, yeah.
Maybe you know what? Maybe it's a fascinating watch. But you know what? Psych Odyssey is that. You could just turn it on and keep watching it. All of you can. All of you could just do that.
I could. Maybe I will someday. Anyways, let's get to it, guys.
I'm not holding out hope for you, Nick.
Yeah, maybe don't hold
these
your
other
breath.
people.
But I will try someday.
You have to care about video game development and stuff. I get it. Well, I mean,
what the fuck?
I mean, I'm saying literally not a better thing for you to watch on the planet.
Dude, I've watched
your fair share of like studio produced documentaries.
Yeah, I
mean,
can't tell if you're being sarcastic or not.
They're too like clean and like their marketing is what I should say. You know, I mean, granted, the company does. I think the company that does make Double Fine, that does make Psych Odyssey, is owned now by Double Fine. So I guess that is technically a studio production. The company.
2Player,
but
Prince of the Universe has a point. The ones that I'm referring to are largely postmortems and not like documentary actual development.
They're just super different than like we were there when they had these conversations. Check it out.
It's still fascinating. Like I watched that documentary about the making of oh my god, why am I Black Mesa, which I thought was really fucking good. Albeit that's not 35 hour
stuff was cool. No clip stuff was cool. I'm not gonna take that away, but like
no clip stuff's great.
There is literally nothing like this.
I know.
Yeah, that's.
And you know what?
Whatever.
I can always borrow it from Chris Davis.
Odyssey. Who's? That's my number 3. Who's next?
Wait, is that really your number 3? You can't do that.
Yeah, I can make it something else. Are we going? We should go.
Yeah, we're going. You're starting us off. What's your first
game I'm most thankful for is GTA 4.
Oh my god! Wait, Brad.
What?
That's really funny. Okay, I'll just say honorable mention was GTA 3, but I think it's for obviously very different reasons. But why don't you go ahead?
Different reasons. I'm curious to hear what yours is. Mine is because I got to be honest with you. I'd never finished a GTA game prior to GTA 4. I dabbled with them, because they're popular. But when those games were coming out, I was like in college and I had roommates and they kind of played them and I just sort of watched because, when you're living with someone and that's all they do for months and months and months, no one goes, okay, now I'm going to sit down and I'm ready to play the game. No, you experienced way more of the game than I've ever wanted to ever see. So I never actually played through a GTA game prior to 4. But, I don't know what caused me to want to play Grand Theft Auto 4 outside of it just being a new game in 2008. But I played it. Mm-hmm. Right. And,
that was the first year we were
long story short, people said, hey, yo, go check out this swing set. And that kind of got me. It's like, maybe this Grand Theft Auto game's not that bad. And then I jumped on a scooter and the rest is history. But I'm thankful for it because it was a game I never cared about. And it was a clip I never uploaded. We never uploaded because back then people used to watch our streams and they would just upload shit themselves. Right.
There was no etiquette. There was no streaming, clipping, posting etiquette.
Shout out to Autumn the Cuzzy. Did their best to give us all the shout outs, link to us and stuff. But I feel like that gave us like a lot of momentum back then. And it's not like we were even before Grand Theft Auto, we were still like, there were so few people doing it. And I think, after we'd played Condemned and stuff, we were definitely the ones maybe people were watching the most already, but it definitely brought in like a larger audience from YouTube that kind of gave us enough momentum to be able to do what we're doing, I think, for years. Because I honestly believe that without that, I'm saying we would have like fizzled out or anything, but you do this long enough with like almost no audience and it becomes kind of a bummer. And maybe we're in sometimes it's kind of a bummer days, and that's true. Like, it's hard to stream sometimes when there's not many people watching or talking, but like, it's amazing how much one viral clip, and we had a lot more obviously since then, and we were all in many great clips, but that one was so much behind that kind of let us do this for a really long time. Not just do this, but let us do kind of whatever we wanted. And most streamers are not like afforded that option, or even I feel like streamers these days that even kind of like find a niche audience. I see it more and more where they're like, well, they like when I play Slay the Spire, so I guess that's what I have to play for the rest of my life. And people always joke, "Oh, just play what you want," or maybe they're serious. I mean, they're wrong. But back then, I felt like that clip going viral let us do the shit we really wanted to
do the stuff that we wanted to do. Yeah.
And people it even though people weren't showing up for the podcast, they were showing up, and they were like, well, I guess sometimes they do this weird podcast, and not everyone watched, but enough of them.
This was supposed to be simple, and now the editing is not going to be simple.
We were on the first one, and we got some of it. So,
you want me to give like a high-pitched scream so you can find the waveform?
Sure, actually.
Okay, hang on. Take your headphones off, everybody. Headphone warning. Headphone warning.
You just cut out, I think.
Yeah, but it caught the waveform on my end, so.
Oh my God.
See that.
How far was I into talking about Grand Theft Auto, y'all?
We had
what was the last thing I said?
I don't
we
know.
Had
panicking.
All right. You know what, Brad? Here's what we'll do. We'll come back in. All right, let's do it. I'm gonna let you talk about GTA 4 again, just maybe shorter than you did before.
Oh, go. Yeah, exactly.
All right. Roll call starts now, Brad.
Hello.
Crispy, just humor me.
Hello.
Chris Davis.
Hello, this is Chris.
All right, cool. All right. So sorry, we had some technical difficulties there. So I'm going to because of this, I'm going to let Brad once again, just real quick, tell us about your first pick again.
Yeah, Grand Theft Auto 4. It was the game. The clip went viral, gave us the momentum to kind of keep doing what we wanted to do for years. Even when people were showing up to watch me play Grand Theft Auto, spooky games, or whatever, it gave us enough of a boost early on to let us kind of do our dumb podcasts and our top.
Let us be variety streamers.
Podcasts. Let us be variety streamers back in an era, or in an era where I guess that was the only kind of streamer.
It was the Wild West. It was the Wild West back then.
These days, getting started as a variety streamer, next to impossible. So I'm thankful for that, even though I don't really care about Grand Theft Auto. It didn't make my top 10 list that year. And, it let us do cool things. And I'm thankful for the people that were around back then that encouraged me to play it. And some of those people are still here today. And I'm thankful for those people as well. So thanks, Grand Theft Auto 4.
Cool. Crispy. What's a game you're thankful for?
Okay, so in the same vein of Brad's pick of Grand Theft Auto 4, just kind of for where it put him in life, right? I picked a game similar. I picked Assassin's Creed 2.
Oh.
For two reasons. A, this was a game that I played a little bit of right before I moved to Texas, and then I couldn't finish, and then I went and played it right after I moved to Texas. I mean, this is a big move. This is like 1,500 miles away from home. The only time, the second state I'd ever lived in, right? Like moved out of Florida for the first time in my life. And I sat in my apartment, jobless, and I played this game, and I played the fuck out of it in like a 48-hour period. And had so much fun with it, and was like, oh, this is so fucking cool. And I was like so into all the puzzles and the deep lore and everything. This was pretty close to the height of my Assassin's Creed fandom. This is also the game that like I was sitting around my house thinking, man, I'd go play that and finish that game. And then I drove to the Arboretum, to the GameStop there, and they had a sign for a job fair where they were hiring. I bought the game, and then I was like, I'll apply for a job at GameStop at that job fair. That's when I got hired. That's how I met Nick. That's how I got involved in all this.
Whoa.
Dang.
Right.
See, Assassin's Creed isn't all
Also,
bad.
it
It does.
was pretty good.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Great.
Assassin's Creed 2, honestly, probably one of like if you want to look at like sequels in terms of like improving on the original, one of the most dramatic improvements on a sequel ever made.
So good. And then Brotherhood,
yeah. I think Brotherhood might be I have maybe stayed with Assassin's Creed a lot longer than some of us here, but I still think Brotherhood might be my like kind of where maybe I peaked in terms of fandom.
I think that's where I did too.
Black Flag.
I mean,
Black
I
Flag
liked the next ones. I liked the next ones kind of like going down. Black Flag was definitely a like, whoa, back up. But yeah, I Brotherhood, I don't think I'd ever felt that way about Assassin's Creed before or since.
Yep. I totally get that. Yeah, cool. I'm thankful for Assassin's Creed 2 as well. For all the reasons.
You can't steal a number 3.
I'm not saying it's my number 3. I'm just saying I too am thankful. So Chris Davis.
Yes.
What are you thankful for?
So my number 3 and number 2 kind of tie into one another because they share.
Oh, you mother!
I told you he'd find a way.
He is a wild card.
Weird.
They're both games. All 3 of them are games. So
okay. So are you about to drop 2 choices at once, or like how's this working?
No. Okay. I will explain, sir. If you just give me a second. My number 3 pick is for Call of Duty 4.
Okay.
Specifically, the multiplayer experience of this game is where I met a bunch of friends online. And we spent probably the better part of 5 years playing COD and other stuff together. Some of us we met like before this through another game. My number 2
Wait a minute, this doesn't sound like us.
Well, no, yeah.
We're talking about this on the podcast. Those motherfuckers.
I mean, here's the thing: is that there was life before 4Player. I did more stuff before 4Player. So
next thing you need to tell me is he secretly does a Call of Duty podcast with these other friends.
Don't have to get weird about it. Jeez.
Yeah, well, but I was really big into
more full life before 4Player.
Yeah. We don't talk about those days.
Yeah, no, we don't. It was a dark time.
Yeah, what was that fucking outlet that you were this fucking?
Well, I was at Gear Critic before Hooked Gamers, and then I was at 4Player.
Hooked Gamers, that's what it was. That's what it was.
They're still going pretty good
these days.
Yeah, they're doing pretty
good.
And
then pretty good.
Yeah. Last I saw them anyway. So, but yeah, Call of Duty 4. It's where I met a bunch of friends. It really kind of solidified me for a good decade into playing online multiplayer games. It was a scene where I met a bunch of friends. We just had every fun for like at least an hour, almost every other night. It was one of those games where, I'm in college at this point, and I'm looking for cheap things to do that I can do on a any given night that I want. And
a daily basis is what we call that.
Huh?
On a daily basis is what you mean.
It was basically on a daily basis for a good while, yeah. But it was just something that I could rely on for connecting with friends remotely and having a lot of fun. I probably put at least 1,000 hours into Modern Warfare.
Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
you don't fuck around, man.
No, I mean, when you're playing like an hour or 2 a night for a year, and then playing a little bit more beyond it when the following Call of Duty came out, like it adds up. So,
Funky Duck in chat wants to know what your favorite COD 4 map is. Can you remember?
Overgrown.
Yeah, look at that.
Overgrown.
I knew he'd have it.
Overgrown.
That was the Chernobyl map where it's just a farm and a small village just covered.
It's like the really open one, spread out, kind of.
It's got some open parts.
Sniper
to it.
Paradise.
There
was
was
like a train yard or something.
I know what you're talking about. I think you're talking about Modern Warfare 2. I don't remember the name of it though.
Not Modern Warfare 2. Modern Warfare is the one I played a shit ton of. Depot? Describe Depot.
Okay, we're getting into the weeds here a little bit, but it's nice to go down, memory lane, I guess.
Yeah.
For COD. COD 4 is still my favorite COD. I mean, take that however you will.
So my although the multiplayer is the most played thing of the game I did, the arcade mode for the campaign was my favorite aspect of that game.
The arcade mode?
Yeah, it was after you beat the campaign, you unlock this arcade mode in which you play through the campaign, but you're on a timer and you rack up points by getting headshots and getting combo kills and stuff like that. At one point, I was number 8 in the world for the overall scores for the arcade mode.
That's cuckoo bananas.
Did you get that Mile High Club achievement?
Oh, of course I got the Mile High Club
across
achievement.
all platforms or on Xbox?
I think I was number 8 on Xbox. I think I was like number 16 all platforms. Something like that.
Fucking scrub.
I mean, I had a lot of fun with that mode. I knew exactly when enemies were going to spawn and exactly where to pre-fire and get headshots and stuff. And yeah, it was a time sink and I really enjoyed it. So
Chris Davis got war stories.
Yeah.
I mean, 2007, right? Is when that shit came out, dude.
Yeah. 2007, arguably.
Mario Galaxy, some Rock Band. Come on, man. We had other fish to fry.
Halo 3. I mean,
Halo 3. I was playing a lot of Halo 3.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah.
Stalker, Shadow of Chernobyl. Actually, I probably played that later.
Yeah, you had to play it later because barely anybody could run it. No, 2007 was, in my opinion, probably the best year of gaming ever. So
it's a good year. Did you know Did you know not everyone accepts 1998 as like clearly maybe the best year for video games of all time?
Literally, what I just said.
I just think it's crazy. I understand that some people will say, like, oh, well, I wasn't that old, or, I think this year was really great, or 2001 or 2007. I'm like, sure. But I've never seen anyone like try to like tear down 1998. And let me tell you, I have seen a group of people online try to tear down 1998, and they just sounded like idiots. Just idiots.
Yeah.
The birth of so many like goated franchises and like things that like everything was 1998. It was crazy. I'm thankful for 1998. What year are you thankful for, Nick?
In this case, I guess I'm going to start with, I guess this would be 1990. I can't remember if it was 1996 or 1997. And there's actually two games I could pick here. One of them is one of my favorite games of all time, so I'm not gonna go with that one. But I'm gonna say Super Mario 64. The other one being Ocarina of Time from 1998. But
it's funny.
But
tie into mine.
But look, Mario 64 I think was really special because, and I've talked about this before in the past, how when I had a Super NES and just a Nintendo system, like I was just, gaming did not have the same appeal to me. It didn't capture my imagination, I guess, enough. I don't know what it was. It was just, there was something about it where I just kind of couldn't. I was like, at that time in my life, I was like, I don't think gaming is for me. And while I don't necessarily think Super Mario 64 was the game responsible for turning me into an avid gamer,
the dweeb you are today,
the dweeb that I am today, it was probably the game that showed me how fucking wrong I was about Mario as a like flagship character. Because like I probably couldn't give two shits about Mario until I think I was in a Toys R Us or a Walmart, and I was like, and there was a demo kiosk or whatever for Mario 64, and I was playing it, and I was like, oh fuck, I think I may have had this all wrong. This is fucking amazing.
I fucked up.
But you said earlier tonight that you didn't play your first Sonic game until the Dreamcast. So like,
True.
what was your like? Did you have a go-to platformer back in the day before Mario 64?
Dude, I mean, I'm telling you, I had a Super NES, I had Mario. I don't remember which one, honestly, and Mario Kart. And neither one of those things like lit my world on fire. And at that point, I was kind of like, I was very much like, I just don't think this is this is the thing that's for me. I don't think I'm going to be really interested in it. And I couldn't tell you why. And then I played Mario 64, and then I remember sometime later going back and playing those same Mario games on my SNES afterwards, and I had like a completely different reaction to them, completely different. Just I was like, oh my god, these are joyful. Like I love this, and I think I owe a lot of that that perspective shift, that the retroactive appreciation for that generation of Mario games classics to Super Mario 64 for whatever reason. I played all the way through Mario 64. It was one of the early games I played on the N64, and it was one of the early games in my gaming career, quote unquote, that like just kind of opened my eyes to what is possible. And obviously, that was kind of at the beginning of 3D games and whatnot. So that was obviously kind of like mind blowing to see. So that probably had something to do with it. But there's just even to this day, I can boot up Mario 64 and just be like, God, this game is a fucking joy. I don't think it's possible to be playing this game and not unless you're racing each other.
Did you buy it when you when it was on the Switch, released for the Switch or whatever, like that collection?
Yes, I did. It had Sunshine on it as well.
Yeah. And Galaxy 1, not 2.
Yeah. I think all 3D Mario games are all those like the core ones: Sunshine, Galaxy 2, Odyssey. I think all of those games are fucking incredible, but I still don't know if I like any of them more than Mario 64. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm thankful that for that game and the perspective that it gave me, and yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Pipeline.
What about what pipe? What are you asking me?
You just muted to talk about Modern Warfare. It was a Modern Warfare Call of Duty.
There was a level called Pipeline. It doesn't have any trains on it, but I remember it. Yeah.
Well, I don't fucking remember trains. Just the first thing that came to mind.
I'll look it up for you. How about that?
No, that's fine.
All right,
I'm saying I don't remember the trains.
What's your second
number two? It's funny you say Mario 64 because in 1996, motherfucker, I wanted Mario 64. I wanted a Nintendo 64, and it was hard to get one. And my parents couldn't do it. I guess they tried, and they just could not secure me a Mario. They couldn't secure me a Nintendo 64. And the game I wanted most was Star Wars Shadows of the Empire, because let me tell you, being a boy in 1996, there's nothing cooler in the world than Star Wars, and Shadows of the Empire was a cool looking. The Star Wars games I played before that most recently were probably like the Super Nintendo Star Wars games, which I liked a lot at the time as a console gamer. But I was very hyped for Shadows of the Empire. So I'm actually most thankful for Star Wars Dark Forces.
Because
what a pivot.
If it wasn't for Star Wars Dark Forces, my parents wouldn't have been able to be like, look at this Star Wars game. We'll get you a PlayStation instead. Because they ended up getting me a PlayStation because they couldn't get a Nintendo 64. And they justified it to me by picking up the Star Wars game that was available for PlayStation at the time, which
is a legit game. It's
Star Wars Dark Forces game.
Dude, a few of those Star Wars games were on the original PlayStation, and they were janky as hell. But like
that was the game that they bought for me with my PlayStation was Dark Forces. If it wasn't for Star Wars existing, then they may have just like they would have eventually got a 64. Maybe I would have had to wait a little bit longer. But they said, "Fuck it, this one has a Star Wars game. We'll get them this one." I was not interested in PlayStation at the time. I was a Nintendo kid. I loved my Super Nintendo. I loved Mario. I loved Zelda. I wanted the N64 so badly. My orthodontist had a 64 with Mario 64, and I wanted it so bad. I hated that man. But no, It was Dark Forces. Dark Forces is the reason I became a PlayStation guy. And I feel like me becoming a PlayStation guy was what led me to the genre choices that still resonate with me today. Because the N64, one, didn't have a lot of games. And two, definitely didn't have the kind of games I ended up falling for, like JRPGs and strategy RPGs and fucking Matsuno games and shit. I would be a different gamer today. I might not even care about games, honestly, if I ended up being a sad little N64 kid like the rest of y'all.
Damn. Shots fucking fired.
Yeah, I'm thankful that there was a Star Wars game on PlayStation. And by the way, that one turned out to be really damn good. I did kind of feel superior. You know, I don't know. Maybe I made it my personality to kind of like.
Does that game still hold up?
On Shadows of the Empire back in 1996 when I was playing Dark Forces, but felt pretty right at the time. And maybe
as someone who owns
Dark Forces is a better game than Shadows of the Empire.
As someone who owns Dark Forces on Steam, is it hold up? Is it worth?
And also they did that remaster. Absolutely, yeah. It's just like a classic Doom game.
Okay, I should check that out.
In fact, I think it's on sale, or it's on like a Humble Bundle. I think right now.
Now I need to check. Is there such thing as is there like a non-remastered version out there on Steam, or if I own Star Wars Dark Forces,
just get the Night Dive one. What are you talking?
That's what I'm trying to find out if I have the Night Dive.
I think it's on the Humble Bundle right now. You could get it for like nothing. Like you support a fucking.
I'm checking. While I'm looking into that,
what's your number 2, Crispy?
My number 2 game that I'm thankful for, I am going to pick Disco Elysium.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good choice.
And I think because
that's when he became a communist.
That's when I became a communist. Yeah. Yeah. That killed the liberal in me forever. No, but like I don't know. Like I had such a that was such a blow the doors off of it moment. Like I just remember, I don't know. It's like when you see a piece of art or like a piece of media that's just like so good and so well thought out and has such a strong vision and message behind it, like such a strong kind of creative inertia to it that like you don't just enjoy it, you don't just love it, like you feel like you have you feel called to like try to be more creative in your own life. You know what I mean? Like you
it elevates you.
You're like, there's someone out here like doing stuff like this. There's someone out here like writing this kind of stuff, making this kind of thing. Like I didn't know that I wanted this. I like something that I couldn't even have conceived of a month ago, like is now probably going to be a pretty formative part of like my tastes going forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, yeah, I don't know. Like this is my opportunity to kind of glaze that fucking game because I know whatever. Like, yeah, it's good. Who cares? It gets a lot of praise. It's pretty universally beloved. But like, I remember, Nick, you and I went and saw a movie, and I don't even remember what it was. But when we got to the theater, I was telling you about playing the game, and I was like trying to describe the stuff that was happening.
Was this Hereditary?
So I think it was. I think it's when we went. It was at yeah. I think it was Hereditary. And like I remember just like I think right before I came, I played the part where like Harry walks by that like blank wall and he's just like transfixed by it and is like, I have to make art on this wall that will crush the status quo, you know, like,
yeah,
like, and just thinking like, oh my god, this game, and just like telling you about it so excitedly, and yeah, I don't know, I'm also I should say the other part of this is the reason why I'm thankful for it is because like we've seen the situation around that property since that game came out, you know, how there's been like 3 different sequels in development and like other games set in that universe that like have all gotten canceled, and it's like the longer this goes and the more kind of fraught and just ugly the saga becomes, the more and more it feels like we were lucky to get the one we did, you know?
That's a good point.
And
That's a
it's
really good point.
like it's like we almost didn't have this, and now I can't imagine living in that world. You know what I mean?
Damn.
And it came out in a year that also had Outer Wilds, and I feel so similar about that game to Outer Wilds.
Yes,
yeah, that's the right one.
Yes,
not Outer Worlds.
Yeah.
Outer Wilds, and I'm like these games are miracles, and I think about games differently now because of them. Because it's not like I'm holding games up to them, but like when people are arguing about like the quality of the writing and like Dragon Age versus or Dragon Age Velguard versus Dragon Age Origins, and I'm like, who gives a shit? Disco Elysium exists now. Like, what are we even arguing about?
It's something that like takes the edges of your world and just kind of sets them a little farther out.
Yeah.
You know? And you're like, oh man, I don't know. I feel like the older I get, the more special a game that like really gets under my skin becomes. You know?
Yeah.
Because I've maybe had too many of those, and I don't have as many to go. You know?
I think that's a very, very good point. And yeah, very good choice. Because man, it's maybe to your point, but like the longer we go, the less likely it is. I feel like we're gonna see a like because there hasn't been anything like it since.
Not only do the chances of getting anything else from that world or from that from those ideas exist. It's like you have to be more thankful that you even got what you got. It's looking more and more like we really made off like bandits, you know?
And that's not to like me. It's not that I'm saying that there's not a fuck ton of really creative, amazing games out there now and in the future. But like that game in particular is so unique that like in a bubble, you know what I mean? Like it's very. I don't think we're gonna see anything quite like it. It's so unique that it's like uniquely creative. I don't even know how to say it.
Maybe it's also just kind of like the like we talk a lot about the industry side of things, or at least the scuttlebutt of the industry, you know.
Right.
You know, Brad talking about Psych Odyssey, like that window into development, and this game, the more like it feels like someone tricked a company, like a corporate entity, into making this excellent piece of art that like really is antithetical to like what this system what this system is supposed to be able to do and like won't do, you know what I mean? And then like it hit big and there was a course correction, you know?
Yep, I totally get that. Good choice. Chris Davis, is your next choice the one that you said is related to your last pick?
Yes.
Modern Warfare 2.
No. This
Halo.
is it stems from multiplayer again. But this is actually the prequel to my favorite game of all time, which is Splinter Cell Pandora Tomorrow.
So Call of Duty is your number one game?
Chaos Theory.
Yeah. Oh, Chaos Theory. Oh, I heard.
Yeah.
Misheard.
Yeah, I mean, like, so Call of Duty was the one that kind of locked me into multiplayer for a number of years. This is what got me into playing online games to begin with.
Kind of actually.
This game came out just as Xbox Live was coming out, which had the broadband subscription requirement. This was about when was this? This was 04, I think. Yeah, 04. No, 03. This is my parents had just divorced. I've been going through a rough patch with them. My dad wanted to do something for me and my brother to, help us get through things. And one of the things that he decided to do was hook us up with Time Warner broadband internet. And because of that, I was able to use my I was probably making $200 a week working at Dillard's, my first job out of high school.
I'm learning all kinds of shit about Chris Davis right now.
I used that to buy a year subscription to Xbox Live, and I loved Splinter Cell. So when they showed off Pandora Tomorrow with multiplayer, I was excited, but don't think I had an inkling as to how much I would just fall in love with this. This is probably one of my most played games ever, if I'm being honest here. I probably put in, I don't know, 1,500, 2,000 hours just playing the multiplayer. I mean, it's just really fucking good. It's an incredibly decently balanced experience that is asymmetrical, where you can have a new experience almost every time you play a map against another player. It's so fucking good.
This is not so secretly really what Chris Davis is hoping for every time they talk about maybe a new Splinter Cell coming out. It's the asymmetrical multiplayer from Pandora's Tomorrow, right?
100%. Like, well, Chaos Theory specifically, because Chaos Theory balanced and perfected what Pandora started.
Gotcha.
So every time there's any Splinter Cell content or any news out there, I'm immediately disappointed because they don't talk about Spies versus Mercs. Did you know that Ubisoft was making a dedicated Spies versus Merc game several years ago and canceled it?
Was that the Jade Raymond project, or am I misremembering?
Nope. It was another team. And just one more dagger in my fucking heart, Ubisoft. Fuck y'all. But yeah, Pandora Tomorrow is...
No, worth noting, that is the second Ubisoft game to show up on this list of games we're thankful for.
It is one of my earlier multiplayer games as well. And like, shit blew my mind back in the day. I didn't play the multiplayer games I played pre like consoles going multiplayer was like, MUDs and stuff. So like playing this shit and like being able to, what was it in Pandora Tomorrow, or was it not until Chaos Theory where you can like hold down like one of the buttons and like whisper into their fucking ears when you grab them?
Oh yeah,
that shit was like,
you can do that in Pandora Tomorrow. World. Yes. Oh, it was so good.
Oh man, it blew my fucking mind.
I was sneaking up behind a merc, grabbing him and just whispering in their ears, "You shouldn't have done that. He was just a boy." Before you just and just
is that a thing that you did?
Oh, it was hilarious. Dude, yeah.
They even added, what was the game recently where they added that and people were losing their minds? Like it's like some game where you can grab people. Like this year.
There was a knockoff. It's rude to say knockoff, but there is a Spies versus Mercs game out there.
Blobs.
I'll have to look it up, but it came out last year in early access.
No. This is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like, Call of Duty, like a major game added that functionality where you can grab them and whisper into their ear.
Shit. No. Fuck that.
No, but it led to a lot of funny like TikToks and stuff.
I mean, yeah, sure, but the Call of Duty fan base is just so fucking toxic. Like it's no.
Okay. We were toxic back then too, Chris Davis.
Oh, we were less toxic. We were. I feel like the early 2000s was a time in which people still had some kind of etiquette on the internet. Not anymore. Not any fucking more. But
it's always been tragic.
But yeah.
Anyways,
they started letting women play. Am I right, Chris Davis?
Jesus fucking.
Fuck you. Goddamn, Brad.
Sometimes Brad says something so outlandish.
The old days.
But he delivers it with such gusto that I'm really concerned.
What's your number two, Nick?
Interesting point I want to throw out here. This is the only game in the franchise you can still not buy.
Wait, you mean like you can't buy it?
It is not available digitally or physically anywhere. There's some kind of licensing and royalties that are tied into this that Ubisoft refuses to support. So they just have never put this game on sale digitally. So
that's tragic.
That's why I had to track down a PC physical copy in order to get the PC version.
Well, that's one way to do it, I suppose.
Well,
that is one. I see what you're
less
alluding
legal
to.
ways to get it, yes, but
if they don't sell it, I think it's pretty legally gray area in my opinion. So
I agree with you there. Yeah.
All right, my number 2 pick is going to be a basic bitch answer. I know, but I cannot deny how important this game is to me, and I'm very thankful for it. And that is The Last of Us. this game, I mean, it's I say it's a basic bitch answer because I love it and I'm thankful for it for all the reasons you're probably thinking. And I'm not saying this is the first game that kind of that opened my eyes to what's possible in the realm of storytelling in video games, because there's been plenty of games before that did that. There's games dating back all the way to the fucking N64 and PlayStation 1 that did that. But there was something so like visceral and just
Visceral
real.
actually meant Dead Space. I'm sorry.
Wait, what?
Visceral made Dead Space. They didn't make Last of Us.
You know what I mean. No, there is something very visceral and real and human about the story. And I'll be honest, and I'll say, I've said this plenty of times. The Last of Us Part 2 is probably what I actually consider to be one of my favorite games of all time at this point. But the first Last of Us is obviously responsible for introducing us to those characters who have now become hugely important to like the industry and to in pop culture in general now, especially now that it's been adapted into a very popular TV show. But yeah, there's just I still remember the first time I played that game and being constantly kind of in awe of and I'm being like I've always loved stories in games, but like I've only been seeing like they've only been scratching the surface, and this feels very like a different. It's like a different animal. I don't know. It's and it just hit hard. It hit hard. It made me feel emotions that I hadn't really ever felt while playing a video game before. Although I take that back because I am thinking about the end of Final Fantasy X, and that shit made me cry like a baby. But The Last of Us is still very, very near and dear to my heart. And yeah, I think, and that also like kind of plays into my love of other similar games that I will not mention here.
I don't even actually know what you mean.
You know, Days Gone.
He means Sony exclusive games.
Days Gone.
Oh, Days Gone.
Days Gone.
Yeah, thankful for Days Gone. Did you know that on Giant Bomb, Turbo Sean?
Yeah.
If you haven't listened to Giant Bomb in a while, you might not know who Turbo Sean is, but he is doing a featured series called Days Sean. What is it? What are they calling it?
Days Sean. Yeah.
Days Sean, where he's playing through Days Gone, and as like a person who would like a game he would never play.
Yeah, it was like an extra life funding goal for Giant Bomb.
And how's that going?
I don't know.
He played it for 5 days and was not enjoying himself.
Yeah.
Oh, well, he's not really that kind
that sounds like an amazing 5 days to me.
They literally did it just because they come up with like pun names or whatever for like titles of features, and then they just decide, I guess we'll make it a thing now because I like how Day Sean sounds, which is a strange choice.
It's as good a reason as any.
I mean, honestly.
But look, I was originally thinking about putting Days Gone as one of my official picks here, but I realized
just not
that like
thankful for it.
I'm very thankful for it, but like so much of my love and appreciation of that game kind of like is rooted in my feelings for The Last of Us. Because a lot of times I think about what I love about Days Gone, and I'm like, it really does to me kind of feel like The Last of Us kind of blown up into something much bigger and more open, which I've obviously always really, really liked in games. But like, and I'm not saying I wouldn't love Days Gone if it weren't for The Last of Us necessarily, but they're so intrinsically linked in my mind that I don't know. I feel like I got to give it to The Last of Us. So, yeah.
Well,
Hey,
that plays into my number one pretty well, actually.
well, Last of Us Part 1 also had factions, so
True.
Yeah.
That's true.
And of course,
I never really played it, but yes, it did.
plays into my number one.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go right into it. Of course,
Do it.
WWF Warzone featuring Stone Cold Steve Austin.
yeah.
Right there. Y'all know how much I love wrestling and Stone Cold. You know, it's just it's the game I'm most thankful for.
That's not true, is it? Is it?
It's true. It's true. Look, I got the physical copy here.
Shut your mouth.
You know, Vince McMahon and Jim Ross, bring you the action from ringside.
What
It's
is
got
this?
Shawn Michaels and the Undertaker, and you know how I love Kane. The fire, so good.
Is
good. Triple
Mankind
H
in it?
and many more. Probably, yeah. Mankind's
I
probably
can't.
in there.
This bit's going on too long. I can't tell if this is real or not.
Well, he's all hit me with the physical copy, so I decided to grab something off the shelf, and this is the first thing I grabbed: WWF Warzone on the PlayStation 1.
I mean, I do have questions.
I think I played it a little bit back in the day. This is not actually the game I'm most thankful for. Anyways, no, the game I'm most thankful for is I don't even remember what was going to be my pick.
He distracted himself with his own bit.
I am going to go with that's tough, right?
He doesn't even know
fuck
yet.
it. The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past is sort of like my game that it is one of my favorite games of all time, so it's kind of unfair. But the reason I'm most thankful for it because it wasn't even a game that I owned. I had video games, going back to my early computers and stuff. We called them just computer games, and then there was like arcade games, and the NES was a thing back in the 80s, but I didn't really own an NES. I just would go to my friends' houses and they had NESs, and I loved playing Zelda and Mega Man and shit over there. It's just kind of how I played my video games. My parents were very much video games are the devil, but whatever. I was a good kid. I made good grades, and eventually I was like, you gotta fucking give it up, dude, because I had two older brothers and they were kind of like, not great students or anything, and I was like, fucking killing it over here. Buy me a Super Nintendo. And they're like, I guess we have to. And, I enjoyed my Super Nintendo and Super Mario World and all that stuff, but I wasn't like really into games. And I didn't even own Link to the Past. It was just the same friend where I always went over to his house to play like Zelda on the NES, which I found like endlessly fascinating, super fascinated with that game. But it was almost kind of like mythical because it wasn't a game that I owned. It was just a game I went over there to play, and it seemed like larger than life. I mean, I don't know if you'll have those memories growing up of like the games that you didn't have that your friends had just seemed like the craziest thing in the world, right? So like when he finally let me borrow Link to the Past, like blew my fucking mind. But it was a game, and it was like one of those games I just never gave back, or he just forgot about it. He's like, whatever, just keep it. I don't give a shit anymore. It was actually like later when I think I got my PlayStation or whatever. And even then I was into games, but it was more just like a thing that you had because every kid cared about video games in the 90s. So you just had a video game system. But I like vividly remember the day where I just decided to like sit down and play Link to the Past and like really kind of think about. I mean, I played the whole thing in one sitting, and I never done that with a video game. And I definitely credit that as the moment of like where I really started. Like, no, I really like I'm in for the long haul.
Your video game sexual awakening, if you will.
It was kind of like my video game sexual awakening because it was just sort of like,
we've all been there, guys. No need to blush over it.
Yeah,
it's just a way to put that. Okay, yeah.
Like before that, they were just kind of around, and I had that stuff, but I didn't really care about it. It was kind of when I started to like care about video games, and not only did I finish it in one sitting, but like I immediately started again and finished it again in like the same sitting. Which let me tell you, that sitting went on a very long time. So it was crazy because I think I was in high school, maybe middle school. When I'm old, okay, but I definitely like have vivid memories of that day. And this was like pre Final Fantasy 7 and all that, where it's like, man, no, these things are like pretty wild. And for a long time, it was my favorite game of all time. Eventually, I was like, it's great and all, but maybe it can be number 2 or whatever. But it was like a thing where, yeah, I don't know. I'm thankful for that because maybe who knows? I could be like a professional athlete right now if it wasn't for that session with A Link to the Past. You never know. It could be a whole different life.
Could have derailed everything.
Well, yeah, and the butterfly effect, right? My wonderful, amazing children probably wouldn't even exist if I didn't finish A Link to the Past that day twice in one sitting, 2 days.
That's
It was more like 2 days.
possible, yeah.
Yeah. Well, butterfly effect literally probably would have been impossible for that to happen.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess I'm most thankful for A Link to the Past because that's when I credit my the moment where I started to care about video games. That's a good one, by the way. That's a good one. I will say a much more beautiful way to experience that game than under duress, like when Nick played it for the first time, and like it was
That's accurate. That is accurate.
Like literally, you were about to fucking lose it. Now, granted, I feel like back in that day, you had a pretty short fuse for losing it, but I don't want to bring up past memories. I don't even remember who the fuck it was because, let's be honest, I really didn't pay too much attention to it. But I'm pretty sure, like, your girlfriend at the time had to convince you to like keep going or something. You were like not in a good headspace.
Yeah.
You were not in a good headspace at all.
No,
but it was marathon week, and we had to do it. We had to finish.
We didn't have to do anything, but we were dedicated, man. God damn it, and we did it. I mean, it's also like the first time Crispy played Super Mario 64 was in our
It's true, under duress.
And he was
that was crazy fun. But also, I do remember feeling like
wanting to
my
I remember
hours
finishing
before
that game,
I had to stop.
And we were not first. I remember me and Nick were like neck and neck, but I was at home tucked into bed after that long marathon Project M with Mario 64 and popping up my stream and seeing Crispy on the struggle bus, man.
Dude, you went home and went to bed. I forgot. Yeah, there was a point. There was a point where like the night was just like dragging my corpse across the finish line.
Yeah.
Well, you did it, goddammit, you did it. We're so proud of you.
But you had to have that. You had to have that with like the elation of like the summer camp kind of fun feel that we were having at the beginning of the day. You had to have the whole thing. That was
such a fun day, even if it ended in chaos. Well, not chaos, but anger and frustration.
No, man. I mean, I don't even. I'm proud I finished. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Like,
hey,
whatever.
You did it, and that is very, very similar to what Brad is describing as my first experience.
Nobody's ever made it look harder.
Yeah, dude, I was trying to kill Ganon with a bug net. Man, it was bad. It was bad.
Wait, how did? Okay, I
don't
wasn't
ask.
there for the first project.
No. He's referring to a clip. So much of our memories of the past are based on like clips that were cut out by the community members. That was the boss of the desert dungeon that you were fighting with the net.
Yeah. Oh, was it? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So it wasn't Ganon. Somebody told me because I was like trying to figure out how to beat the boss, and that's somebody in the room, probably David, told me that like
rocks with the net or something.
He's like, what do you? He's like, you got an item in this temple. What do you think don't you think you need to use it, Nick? Like, because that's how Zelda games typically work. And I got the bug net, I guess, in like shortly before that. I don't know. And I was like, is it the bug net? Do I need to use the bug net? And he's like, yeah, you need to use the bug net. So I'm sitting here trying to like swing my bug net at this fucking boss for like 10 minutes, like getting increasingly more and more angry. Before someone finally let me in on the secret that I was being dumb.
You need to replay that game one of these days in like a leisurely way. I think you'll find that it's quite delightful. Maybe
it's a good game. No, you're right. You're right. And no, it's funny. Like, then I went back later and played A Link Between Worlds, which is the same map. And I was like, that was a much breezier, in more ways than one. It was a much breezier experience because it's just an easier game, but it's also like I wasn't playing it under duress. And I was like, oh, this is pretty great. Anyways, Crispy, what's your last pick of the night?
And this is difficult.
It always is.
It's got to be Destiny.
It's not Destiny. Although Destiny's pretty cool. Okay, I'm calling an audible, and I changed my mind at the last second. My third game that I am thankful for is... Let me make sure I get the title right. Star Wars Star Wars Dark Forces 3, Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast.
Whoa.
Is it really the full name? Does that
No. Same series
No,
as
I think it's just Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast.
No, that's a fucking that's a bit that what's his name? Fucking Mitch from Giant Bomb. No, I mean, whatever. He calls all of the Dark Forces games by the subtitles of the previous or like whatever.
You have to.
Continue.
So by the time you get to Jedi Academy, it's like Jedi Outcast 2, Jedi Academy.
Dark Forces 4, Jedi Knight 3, Jedi Outcast 2, Jedi Academy.
What the fuck?
Oh, so funny. But, okay, so beyond just being an incredible game, like, I love that fucking game. I remember that was early in my, like, journey of, like, being into video games as a hobby when I'd, like, be reading magazines and stuff, and I saw the first, like, teaser ad for it in, like, Electronic Gaming Monthly or something. It's the one where, like, it's Kyle Katarn from the back and he's walking down a hallway and he's, like, dragging his lightsaber along the wall, like, just leaving a trail of, like, molten metal. And it was so badass, and I just remember getting so excited. I immediately cut the ad out and, like, put it up on my wall and just, like, would look at it every day and be like, yes. And then, like, I remember buying the game and then playing it and being like, what? Oh my god. And then, okay, so I was already an incredibly, like, hopeless Star Wars fan. That game made me, like, that game was the culmination of, like, a journey into PC gaming for me that included such games as, like, Unreal Tournament 2003 and, like, Star Trek Voyager Elite Force. Like this is just, like, really weird series of, like, buggy shooter games. I was like, I'm a shooter guy, I think.
I love that clip, by the way, Crispy.
What?
The Elite Forces clip where you're talking about how awesome Elite Forces are, and all of a sudden the buggers are like, oh yeah. You're like, fuck you guys. Yeah, it's a funny clip. Someone find that clip. Anyways, continue.
Dude, but, like, also, like, the other reason I'm thankful for it is because that was, like, the first game that I really kind of, like, learned how to, like, install mods on. Like, I got into, like, modding, and I was really into, like, the online multiplayer scene for that game, which was much more about, like, downloading mods for, like, locations from the movie and, like, different character skins, and then, like, role playing. It was the weirdest fucking thing. Like, that game really dovetailed into, like, my introduction to social media, like the MySpace days, and, like, just having friends online that you don't know in real life. So fucking wild, so weird. From there, from that game, I go into, like, the Steam games, like modding, like, Counter-Strike 1.6 and shit like that. Like, I don't know. It like, I feel like that's the game that really like introduced me to, like, what being a PC gamer is kind of about,
It was the magic carpet game for you. This is the whole new world.
It was so great. Like, because, like, I think the first mod I put on Jedi Outcast was I thought it was so cool that, like, you could like, use a lightsaber, but I hated that it didn't, like, cut up stormtroopers. I was like, oh no, this is a lightsaber. It should just, like, cut people in half. And then I, like, looked up cheats, and supposedly there was a cheat that kind of did it, but, like, it doesn't always do it. And then I found a mod that was like, you can fucking slice up anybody with this mod, and I was like, yes, I gotta.
Yes,
how do I make this happen? Like, and then
you little psychopath.
A month later, I'm, like, role playing in the like, user generated Jedi Temple map, like, with a fucking Boba Fett skin I downloaded from somewhere else. Like,
man, this is making me realize there's just, like, a whole subset of, like, Star Wars games that I completely missed the boat on. Like, both of the Star Wars games we missed tonight, that we talked about tonight, are games that I just
first and foremost. I mean, they ended up with bad console ports, to be fair, but, like, their PC games They were born on the PC for sure.
The second half of the 90s and the early 2000s, like, it was the Wild West when it came to Star Wars games. Yeah.
Good times.
I'm thankful for Sheep on the PlayStation 1, of course. The reason I fuck Sheeps to this day.
Did you just make that game up? Like,
Yeah,
I've never seen that or heard of it. Like,
also thankful for the Divide Enemies Within.
What? These are like,
if Brad wasn't
the games I'm most thankful for.
If Brad wasn't holding these jewel cases up to his camera to show us, I would have assumed an AI had created the names of these games.
Have you ever seen those TikToks where like someone will like go into a game store and then like take a picture of like the person working there and then like really quickly like Photoshop them onto like a cover of the game and put it on the shelf and then start asking that person about that game? Like, tell me a little bit about this game. And then they're holding up a game like, wait a minute. Where'd you get this? Where'd you get this game? It's like a picture of them on the cover.
Jesus.
These games are like Mandela.
You don't know about Sheep? You don't know about Sheep?
These are like Mandela effect, like fucking interdimensional cable ass video games. Like, these aren't real.
What are you talking about? Look at the back of that.
These are all Photoshop. You created these. This is an art project you did in school.
This is what you've been working on the whole episode.
Yeah, that was. I'm not familiar with Sheep, but I am familiar with Sheep Raider. So.
Oh, that's a good one actually. That's kind of a deep cut. That's a Wile E. Coyote game, right? From the the PlayStation 1.
I do think in all the chaos of this conversation, we did gloss over the fact that Brad did just say, quote unquote, the reason I fuck sheep to this day. I just want to make sure that's out there.
I said sheeps.
Sheeps.
I'm sorry to be clipped out.
Oh fuck. Okay, Chris Davis, what is your final pick for the night?
Unfortunately, I do not have a physical copy of this game.
God.
Well,
what? That's the whole bit, dude.
Well, I actively have a tab open on eBay looking at listings for it.
Oh my God.
Easy, buddy. Easy.
You're moving into a home.
I'm gonna have space on my walls to put stuff and shelves and all that. And I've recently started collecting big box games, so I want to have some big box games. My number one game I'm most thankful for is probably Half-Life 2.
There you go.
I know that sounds like a cop-out game, but it's a game that I go back and play about every year and a half. This was actually the 20th anniversary of the release this month. I've got it installed, ready to go, and I want to play through it again because they've done some updating and some work on it, which is really cool to me.
Which is wild.
It is. It absolutely is. But also at the same time, like, it's probably one of the most important game releases of the past 25, 30 years.
That's very true.
Like, it was the breakout game for creating a compelling cinematic narrative experience.
Was that the break? I mean, not trying to undercut you. I'm just genuinely curious. Is that widely considered to be like one of the earliest?
Like the first one, maybe.
Yeah, like it was the one where you were in game and your characters were emoting and having conversations in real time with you, and you were experiencing it.
What year did Half-Life 2 come out?
2004.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's
the first one's credited that with like along with like Metal Gear Solid and stuff, but.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it obviously did a lot of important shit.
Yeah. Correct. And I mean, but also like what Valve did with their Source engine and making it basically free to develop on and do all sorts of things with it. Like, I'm pretty certain like a third of the games out there that have been made in the past 20 years would not have been possible without Half-Life 2 as its guidance. And just this playground for people to get into development and experiment and try new things. I mean, you mentioned The Last of Us. I'm pretty certain that game wouldn't exist without Half-Life 2. I think you could
How does that try?
The butterfly effect, Brad. The butterfly effect.
Yeah.
I mean, true. I guess. I mean, it wouldn't exist without Jack and Daxter. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean,
also true.
it is just such a phenomenal game from start to finish. There is no point in that game, in my personal opinion, in which the game lags or is inferior to the overall experience.
Boat sequence.
Canal.
Well, he challenged me.
I think Canal's
He didn't
pretty
challenge.
good. I liked the drive around the boat. That was fun. All the vehicle sequences are pretty good in that game.
I thought we were talking about pacing. Never,
I mean,
look, I'm just messing with you.
Yeah.
I love Half-Life 2.
Like it's just kind of fucking incredible.
Although I did play the first time I played Half-Life 2 was on the original Xbox, and let me tell you, was kind of nausea-inducing. Let me tell you.
You chose the wrong platform to play it on, unfortunately.
Actually, my first experience playing Half-Life 2 was the orange box. I just realized.
Well, that was only 3 years later, so that's I think that's okay.
I mean, yeah, it was probably not as bad as the original
my
Xbox
PC at the
experience,
time was not running games like Half-Life 2. Yeah.
Well, I mean, few people's PCs were doing it. But the thing is that they really fucking optimized that game. Like, unless you were playing on like a Pentium 2 or something like that, like, you could probably play Half-Life 2. Maybe like at low settings at 480i, but you're playing it. And
yeah, I was still playing Infinity Engine games, honestly. I don't think I was getting close to running Half-Life 2.
I mean, you never know. But Valve just did such an incredible job building up a game and 2 expansions that, I mean,
they raised the bar.
I mean, figuratively and literally in some ways, yeah. It's really cool. For the 20th anniversary, Valve is actually going to be re-releasing that making of book with new content, including cut content from what would have been episode 3. And they also remastered and re-released their demos from 2002 and 2003 to watch. So it's the highest quality version of those really kind of incredible demonstrations that they had going on at the time. Going and seeing all that cut alpha and beta content and all this level design is really fucking cool. Like today, I finally sat down and I played the Halo 2 E3 demo.
Oh, yeah, I thought you played that weeks ago. You finally got around to it today?
It was more like just I didn't want to get to it just yet. I didn't want to rush into it. But I just finally sat down and played it. And that makes me, after having played that and how really fucking cool that was, I really want to go back and experience this alpha and beta content that Valve put together. That maybe they'll release those demos. That would be fucking awesome. So,
Cheese Kid says play the Alpha Moon cut level. I don't know what that means. Maybe you do.
That was another cut level from Half-Life or from Halo 2. Like a whole ass level. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Cool. Yeah. Half-Life 2. Fantastic video game. I'm also thankful for that. But that's not my first choice. In fact, there's a lot of different games I could have gone with that I considered. But this one, the game I'm going to mention is actually kind of in line with the first game that Brad mentioned tonight. And that is, in terms of its significance for me and why I'm thankful for it. And that would be Condemned. No. Condemned 2. Condemned 2 Blood. Is it Bloodshot? Is that what it's called? Condemned 2 Blood.
Is that the bear game?
That's the bear game, and that's why I'm thankful for it.
Bear game.
Okay, well, not exclusively why I'm thankful for it, because honestly, on a general level, even if you pull out like kind of what that game did for us, I think that game is great. I in fact, Condemned is one of those franchises that I'm just like every day hoping it comes back in some form. Maybe not with the same, maybe not Monolith doing it, because that would be like pie in the sky, but it's just a cool enough idea. And I still don't, even with 2 games, I don't think they like made like the perfect Condemned experience, but like there's so much potential in it, and it's such a cool idea. But playing Condemned 2 for the first time, it came out when we were just starting to podcast, when we had no audience, and we were just starting to kind of experiment with streaming, or broadcasting as we called it, as Brad mentioned. And it just ended up being like it's like looking back at it today, I can't even watch the footage. It's fucking god awful. It's literally because it's literally a handy cam on a tripod pointed at a screen. We weren't even doing direct feed, but it was the earliest stream I can remember that we did as a group, all hanging out together in David and Brad's apartment.
In some ways, that footage looks better than like some of the footage we did later when we were trying to direct capture.
Really, it's the audio that was terrible.
Oh yeah, the audio is terrible.
The audio is god awful, but like, there's no denying that the energy in that stream was so great, and we had I don't even remember how it happened, but we ended up with developers who had just worked on the game because we were streaming it on launch night. We had developers coming in and like talking to us while we were playing through the game, which was a really cool experience.
When you got to your number one, I thought you were gonna mention 1 for the PlayStation 1.
Stop it, Brad. Stop it.
No?
I have heard of that
anybody?
game. I have heard of that game.
Oh damn.
But you know what? Sorry. Condemned 2, it was such a special experience, and kind of like GTA 4, it gave us a boost. It picked up an audience for us very, very quickly, and suddenly the thing that we had already been doing for probably a year, maybe not quite a year, but we've been doing it for what felt like a pretty long time, with no listeners really to speak of. Suddenly we had people listening to us.
It was quickly. Quicker than that. Oh, you're talking about the podcast. Yeah. True.
The podcast. In the stream, obviously, that was the first stream that really had an impact. And like, I don't even remember how many people we were streaming for, like 1,000 people that night or something. And there was a developer, and maybe it wasn't that. Maybe it was like 500. I mean, it was in the hundreds. It was definitely more than we ever anticipated. That's for damn sure. And it was just kind of a magical night. And of course, it gave us "Holy Crap, That's a Bear," which was just gold. Even though I can't watch it today because it's the audio is so fucking
garbled,
deafening. Yeah. Yeah, it's just a really special game, and in a lot of ways, like GTA 4, it kind of opened doors for us in terms of gave us an audience and allowed us to continue doing what we were really interested in doing, which was just talking about games in general and not being pigeonholed into playing any one thing, which at the time we didn't even really know was the direction streaming was going, because we were one of the first people doing it. But it opened up so many doors. It's in a lot of ways you can trace it back. Like, it's kind of it opened the first door towards getting us to a point where we could go to things like E3, and obviously E3 was a big deal for me. I still have very fond memories of doing it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm very, very thankful for Condemned 2. It's legitimately a series that I love, and I hope one day it comes back. But I'm thankful for it, for what it did for us as a podcast, and as a group, and as friends. And yeah. So, not much more to say about that. Yeah, fuck yeah.
Although the first Condemned is still better.
The first Condemned, I mean, the farmhouse level alone is probably reason enough to say that. But I do also really have fond memories of Condemned 2.
Department store.
Yeah,
you can't forget your first playthrough of the department store.
Damn, dude, that series is so good. Do we want to? Anyone want to shout out some quick honorable mentions?
No Man's Sky.
No Man's Sky. There we go.
We shouldn't have that game. Shouldn't have turned around as much as it did, and we're lucky it did.
Yeah, I get it. I was gonna mention PT, because not necessarily because. One, it was another great stream that I remember experiencing for the first time with all of us together in the same room. That was unforgettable. But then on top of that, the impact that game went on to have on the horror genre in general was a really big deal for me, because it led to a lot of really cool games that I love, and I feel like they wouldn't really exist, at least not in the form that they're in, if it weren't for PT coming first. Anything else? Brad's over here rummaging through his shelf to find other.
What are you talking about? Point Blank, of course.
Love me some
Point Blank.
Yeah.
Point Blank, Namco game.
Can I do another one?
Yeah, go for it. We're just shouting them out.
The first Overwatch, because that was like my COVID socializing game, or the main one.
Got you through some tough times.
I want to shout out Tekken, the Tekken series. Been a Tekken fan ever since the demo disc for the PlayStation 1 when I played Tekken 2. But I was playing a lot of Tekken in the arcades when I was in high school, and then when I went to school here in Austin. And I kept running into David in the arcades. And we had, we weren't really friends in high school, but we knew we had a couple classes together. So we definitely knew each other. But it wasn't until like I kept running into him in arcades when we were both going to college that we sort of started like talking. And then it was when I ran into him in like a Game Crazy, like back in Houston or whatever, or Sugarland, and where it's like, oh, this shit's crazy. And it was like enough like happenstance where we kept bumping into each other. He was playing a lot of DDR back then, I guess, that sort of got us talking and saying, you know what, we should like do something. And the rest is history, man. So shout out to Tekken. I would have never been in the arcades if it wasn't for Tekken. Played so much shit.
Shout out to Twilight Princess for inspiring the first episode of 4Player podcast ever.
True. Shout out to, I'm thankful for Slay the Spire, of course. Played today, man. Got really close on a heart kill, Ascension 20. Just today on the shitter. Love it. Absolutely love it.
All right.
Shout out to
Prey and the Evil Within.
Prey and
the Evil Within from great studios that Microsoft decided didn't need to exist anymore.
Yeah.
And you said Metal Gear Solid. That's a good one. I would, if I had to pick a Metal Gear Solid, I would probably pick Metal Gear Solid 2. Because man, that game was
I'm thankful for Puppeteer.
I'm thankful for the whole
that shouldn't have ever existed. Puppeteer. I'm thankful for Japan Studio, and fuck Sony for shutting them down.
I'm thankful for Death Stranding.
Yeah, there we go.
I'm thankful for UFO 50.
I'm thankful for video games and for friends.
Oh, I'm thinking video games first?
Yes, video games first, all the way.
I'm thankful for Dragon Age, the Velguard, because it made that week, or the week after that shitty Tuesday way better. I feel like everyone needed a game like that. Maybe it was a different game for everybody else, but for me it was easy to like kill a week playing Dragon Age, man.
That's fair.
So good.
That game would probably be Stalker 2 for me. But
Crispy, did you give up on Dragon Age, or did you what's up, dude?
I don't know.
What's up?
I haven't seen you playing my copy recently.
It gets good. It gets good.
I know. I didn't give up, but I kind of gave in a little. It's cool so far. I just want to feel like I understand what's going on.
Well, why don't you read Dragon Age to Winter Nights, a collection of short stories in the Dragon Age universe?
It's not the lore stuff that's confounding me. It's like the missions. I feel like I keep doing these missions where like I'm doing something, someone tells me what I'm about to do, I go do it, and I come back, and then they explain what I just did, and then I'm like, oh, okay.
That's fair. That's a fair assessment.
Sure.
I get it.
The game is weird and awkward, and you could tell it's been in development for a long time, but there are some scenes that are actually like really cool. Like Nick, you did all like the did you do all the Solus like mural quest line?
I have 4 out of 5, I think.
Wait, but did you actually do the wolves or whatever? You got the scenes?
I have 4 out of 5 murals.
Oh, but you don't have all of them.
I'm
trying to remember what happens when you get all of them. But you've been doing like the group conversations and stuff, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's so cool.
Look, we can revisit Dragon Age again on a future show.
We should shut this shit down.
But it's time to shut this shit down tonight, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you. I'm thankful that all of y'all showed up to talk about video games tonight on this podcast. I'm thankful for that every time it happens. But yeah, guys, that's our show tonight. We'll be back next week. Maybe Crispy will be ready to talk Metal Gear Solid 5 because he's been playing a fuck ton of
Uh,
that.
I hate to correct you, Nick, but I think it might be more accurate to call it Metal Gear Solid V.
Okay, Metal Gear Solid V. And hopefully, I will be able to contribute some to the Stalker 2 conversation. If not, Chris Davis can carry it because he's playing it. Fuck.
Yeah.
And we'll have there's lots of video games. We'll be back to talk next week. We record these Tuesday nights. Thanks for tuning in. You can find all of our episodes on 4playernetwork.com, and of course, you can join us in our Discord at discord.gg/4player. If you're not there, we'd love to have you. Be sure to pop into the introductions channel, introduce yourself, let us know what you're playing and all that stuff. We'd love to hear from you. But in the meantime, guys, play video games. Be good to each other. I said that backwards. Be good to each other. Play video games. Good night.